Have you ever looked at the Nike swoosh? It's just a check mark. So simple. So universal. But what if I told you that behind this little symbol lies a story? A story of rebellion. A story of innovation. A story of betrayal, survival, and ultimate triumph. A story that began with a dream so crazy, so impossible, that almost nobody believed in it. This is the story of Nike, a company that started with no money, no office, no employees. Just one young man with an idea that he carried in his heart and in the trunk of his car. Today, on the Mind of a Master, we are not just learning history. We are unlocking one of the greatest business stories of modern times. And along the way, we will uncover timeless lessons that can change the way you think about ideas, about risk, and about life. So, let's begin. The year is 1962. America is booming. Families are buying cars. Television is everywhere. The American dream feels alive. But in the world of sports, especially running, things are very different. American runners are losing races. They train hard. They run with passion. But they lose. Why? Because of their shoes. The shoes are heavy. The shoes are stiff. The shoes are uncomfortable. And almost all of them are made in Germany. Two giants dominate the running world: Adidas and Puma. Strong, powerful, untouchable. Nobody even dares to compete with them. But in Oregon, a young runner named Phil Knight has an idea. A crazy idea. Phil is a student at Stanford Business School. One day, he writes a paper for his class. The idea is simple, but bold. What if America imported high-quality, low-cost running shoes from Japan? Japan. Yes. In the early 1960 seconds, Japanese products were cheap, not respected, almost ignored. People laughed. Shoes from Japan could never compete with Adidas. Never. But Phil Knight believed otherwise. He thought Japanese factories could make shoes that were lighter, faster, and cheaper. Shoes that could give runners a real chance. Phil showed the paper to his professor. The professor thought it was good. Interesting. But outside of class, people laughed. Compete with Adidas? You must be joking. But Phil was stubborn. He was not like most people. He was an underdog. He was a dreamer. And he was ready to take a risk. So, after graduation, he buys a ticket. He flies all the way to Japan. No business. No plan. No office. Just one idea. He walks into the offices of Onitsuka, the company that made tiger shoes. The Japanese businessmen look at him. They ask, "What company are you with?" Phil freezes. He has no company, is less than #0, 7 hashes greater than, he has no money. He has no employees. But he has courage. He cannot lose this chance. So he smiles. And he invents a name right there on the spot. Blue Ribbon Sports. The Japanese believe him. And just like that, Phil Knight, a young man with no company, walks out with a deal to import shoes. First lesson. Have the courage of a crazy idea. Don't wait for permission. Start, even if you have nothing. Phil comes home to America with his first shipment of shoes. But he has a problem. He has no store, no advertising, no money. So he turns his house into a company. The basement becomes the warehouse. The living room is the office. And the trunk of his car becomes the store. Phil drives from one track meet to another. He opens his trunk. And he sells shoes directly to runners. Imagine this scene. You see a young man standing in the rain. Car trunk open. Showing shoes to anyone who will listen. That was Phil Knight. The shoes are good. The runners love them. But the business is slow. Phil is still losing money. He needs help. He needs a partner. And he finds one. Bill Bowerman, Phil's old college coach. A genius of running. A man obsessed with perfect shoes. Bowerman experiments constantly. He cuts shoes apart. He glues them back together. He tries everything. And then, one morning, while making breakfast, he looks at his wife's waffle iron. He has an idea. What if the sole of a shoe had a waffle pattern? It would be lighter. It would grip the track better. It could change everything. He pours rubber into the waffle iron. It works. The waffle sole is born. Second lesson. Innovation can come from anywhere. Even your kitchen. The company, Blue Ribbon Sports, is growing. But then disaster strikes. Onitsuka, the Japanese company, wants to cut Phil out. They plan to end the deal and take over his customers. Phil and Bowerman have no choice. They must create their own brand. But they have no name, no logo, and the deadline is tomorrow. The team sits in a small room, panicking. They throw around names. Falcon, Dimension 6. None of them sound right. The air is thick with fear. And then, at the very last moment, a random employee suggests Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. Perfect. Now they need a logo. They hire a young design student named Carolyn Davidson. She draws a simple checkmark. She calls it the swoosh. Phil doesn't love it. But there's no time. They pay her $35. And the swoosh is born. Third lesson. Build your own brand. Because one day, the supplier may become the enemy. Now Nike is ready to run. But they don't have much money for advertising. So they do something different. They go to the athletes. They give shoes to runners. They sponsor athletes directly. And when the athletes win, everyone notices. Soon, people start asking, what are they wearing? The answer is always Nike. Nike signs the best athletes in the world. But the biggest deal comes in 1984. Michael Jordan. At first, Jordan doesn't even want Nike. He prefers Adidas. But Nike offers him something no one else will. A shoe designed just for him. The Air Jordan. It explodes. More than a shoe. It becomes a cultural revolution. Kids line up for hours. The Air Jordan becomes a legend. Nike realizes something powerful. They are not just selling shoes. They are selling culture. They are selling identity. Fourth lesson. Don't sell a product. Sell a story. Sell a dream. By the late 1982, Nike is huge. But they want something more. A message. A soul. One day, a copywriter remembers the story of a man facing execution. His last words were, "Let's do it." Dark. But Nike transforms it. They change it into 3 words. 3 simple, universal words. Just do it. Those words become one of the most powerful slogans in history. A call to action for athletes, dreamers, and anyone chasing greatness. 5th lesson. Your brand is not just what you sell. It is what you believe. But Nike's story is not only about victory. In the 1,990 seconds, the company faces a massive scandal. They are accused of using sweatshops and child labor. The world reacts with anger. Protests break out. Magazines call for boycotts. The swoosh is in crisis. Many companies would collapse. But Nike faces the truth. They admit mistakes. They change factories. They raise standards. Slowly, painfully, they rebuild trust. 6th lesson. Even giants fall, but true masters rise again. Today, Nike is everywhere. On the feet of champions. On the streets of every city. In stadiums, gyms, and playgrounds. But remember where it all began. In a young man's imagination. In the basement of a house. In the trunk of a car. In a waffle iron in a kitchen. The swoosh is more than a logo. It is a story. A story of courage. A story of risk. A story of resilience. Nike proves that even the biggest empires can be built from the simplest dreams. And above all, Nike reminds us that the greatest victory is in the courage to begin. Thank you for watching The Mind of a Master. If this story inspired you, share it with a friend. Like and subscribe for more. Because here, we don't just learn history. We unlock the minds of the masters.